Hello, I'm Fiona Sitkin, a host of a talk show, The Bridge for Women Worldwide. And today I'm hosting the 18th episode of The Bridge. Its title is How to Stay Sensational at 60, which is part of our series Women Worldwide on the Rise. And the guest for today's show is Cindy Gallup, founder of If We Ran the World and Make Love Not Porn Companies, also a founder and former chair of BBH New York, an advertising firm. Originally, she is from Britain and Borneo. The topic regarding women of mature age staying sensational is critical today, so much so that this demographic is essential both as active consumers and shareholders of the upcoming elections. The mature ladies like us are business savvy, charming, and maybe unpredictable. So we need to better understand how they manage to stay sensational and beautiful no matter what. So stay with us, please. Let me say a few words about myself and the show. A professional educator and former Fulbright scholar, my talk show is rooted in my Huffington Post blogs and the recent book, How They Made It in America, Success Stories and Strategies of Immigrant Women, from Isabella Allende to Ivana Trump to fashion designer Josie Natori, plus more. And today I will have a distinct honor to present Cindy Gallup, who may be the subject of my next book. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you, Fiona. It's great to be here.
Yes, and it's a pleasure for me and an honor for me. I was intrigued by you ever since I first interviewed you for the Huffington Post. So let me introduce you properly here at the Bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, Cindy Gallup is an advertising entrepreneur and executive who is prone to risk-taking and winning big. See for yourself. After joining the advertising firm in London, the BBH, she quickly rose in the ranks from bottom up to the top, which is a big deal. Why? Because the advertising companies worldwide are not exactly women-friendly. That's why. Nevertheless, Cindy was sent to New York City to start the American branch of BBH, which she did, also winning the Advertising Woman of the Year award along the way. Finally, Cindy founded her own brand, launching the company Make Love Not Porn, which is all about good lovemaking. In her 2009 4-minute TED Talk, she clarified that the idea of the company came to her after making love to the guys much younger than herself. And guess what? Her new company became an overnight sensation. So welcome to our show, Cindy.
Thank you, Fiona.
My first question would be about your professional life. With your brilliant career both in Britain and the US, what made you an ambitious achiever in the first place? How did it all start?
I think, I've always been ambitious. And I would say, by the way, that's a product of my family. My father was English. My mother is Chinese. She embodies tiger mother par excellence. And so my childhood was characterized by, as you can imagine, the pressure to achieve academically. I was lucky enough to go to Oxford University. I went to Somerville College there, had a great time. And, I've just always been very ambitious to do as much as I can and achieve as much as I can.
Well, that's nice. You did a lot. Now I know that you are a very successful immigrant, but why did you seek professional success in the US while being so very well established in London?
So, I came to New York first as a child with my family on a family vacation. But I really fell in love with New York when I came back years later, early on in my working career. I was in my 20s. A friend of mine in the UK did an apartment swap with somebody in New York and
Ah,
said to me, come out and stay. So I came out for a week, had a wonderful time, and fell in love with New York. And so for years, I would come out here on vacation and on business. And I always wanted to live and work in New York. And so, back when I was working for BBH in London, as an extremely ambitious account director,
ah,
I pinned my boss, Nigel Bogle, up against the wall. And I said to him, as you do when you're an ambitious account director,
ah,
where am I going in this agency?
ah,
And Nigel did the very good management thing of turning the question back on me. He said, you tell us what you want to do, Cindy, and we'll make it happen. And he said to me, don't be bounded by the realms of the possible. If you want a job that does not yet exist, tell us what it is and we'll make it happen.
ah.
So I thought that's a pretty good offer. I went away, thought about it, and I came back and I said, my dream job would be running BBH North America out of New York. Now, at the time, we only had one office in London, but
Ah.
Nigel said to me, well, actually, we have begun thinking about America. So your request is logged. Then our clients actually wanted a presence in Asia. So we opened an Asia Pacific office first in 1996. I went out to Singapore and spent 2 years there helping to start up and run BBH Asia Pacific. And then I got my dream to come to New York and start up BBH America. And so my advertising career brought me here. But very soon after I arrived, I realized I'd found my spiritual home. I was never going back to London. And I'm a New Yorker for life.
Ah, wonderful, welcome. I also live in the New York State area in New Jersey, so we go back and forth to New York, especially when Broadway is open. Well, let's wait for that to happen. Anyway, thank you for your response. And now that your own company, Make Love Not Porn, is up and running, could you please elaborate on its principles, objectives, and probably your vision for the future?
Sure. So Make Love Not Porn is pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. And as you shared with our audience earlier, it was born out of my experience dating younger men and realizing that when we don't talk about sex openly and honestly in the real world, porn becomes sex education by default. And so Make Love Not Porn is the world's first and only user-generated, human-curated social sex video sharing platform. We are kind of what Facebook would be if Facebook allowed you to socially, sexually self-express, which it sadly doesn't. And so what we are doing is we are socializing and normalizing sex in the real world, making it easier for everybody to talk about in order to promote consent, communication, good sexual values, and good sexual behavior. And so we call ourselves the social sex revolution. The revolutionary part is not the sex, it's the social.
You explained it brilliantly, just, putting it in a nutshell. Thank you so much. Cindy, I am interested in your other company as well, if we ran the world. So in your own estimate, are you progressing in it well enough, or is it still in a concept stage, or what?
Right. So actually the sequence of events, Fiona, is that If We Ran the World was my first startup, and I had launched it and was working on it, when Make Love Not Porn exploded with my TED Talk back in 2009. And even I, superhuman as I am, cannot run two startups simultaneously. And so I had to back burner If We Ran the World. But I designed Make Love Not Porn around the business model that If We Ran the World was created to enable businesses to adopt. And when I can, I want to go back and reactivate If We Ran the World. But If We Ran the World is all about my belief that the future of business is doing good and making money simultaneously. And so I believe the business model of the future is shared values plus shared action equals shared profit, financial profit and social profit. In other words, when brands and businesses come together with their audiences, and by audiences I mean consumers, employees, analysts, when you come together on the basis of values that you all share, which by the way is the most important requirement for a good relationship in life as much as business. You will never truly bond with someone if you don't share the same values.
Right.
So when you come together around shared values, and when you're then enabled to collectively and collaboratively co-act on those values, to walk the talk together, you can then make things happen in the real world that will benefit consumers, benefit society, and benefit the brand and its business. So If We Ran the World is co-action software for businesses to incorporate that business model. As I said, I had to back burner If We Ran the World, but I designed Make Love Not Porn around that business model to have a revenue sharing business model. And so one day I hope to also be able to, restart If We Ran the World.
The model is excellent. I am really fascinated with that.
So. And in fact, Fiona, I was very flattered when, just 12 months after we launched If We Ran the World, Harvard Business School reached out to me and said, this model is so innovative, we want to write it up as a case study and teach it. And so If We Ran the World exists as a Harvard Business School case study. And I hear regularly from business students around the world who love it and very much want me to reactivate it one of these days.
I see. Yeah, the model is super. I believe it has the future. You are a big achiever, and you turned 60 this year, and you became a role model for many, many women. Have you ever had a role model for yourself? That is the question.
Of course. My role model, well, what I would say is my role model is every single woman, and actually, to be honest, every single person in this world who is standing up and speaking out and fighting for what we all want to see change so that this world becomes the world that we would all like to live and work in. Everybody who does that is my role model.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's good to know. Talking of women, do you think that women's rights in America, especially the right to choose, are in jeopardy today after Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death?
To be honest, Fiona, women's rights have always been in jeopardy in America. And, it's indicative of how much in jeopardy they've always been, that there was so much hope heaped on the shoulders of one woman. And so what I would say is that women's rights in America depend on all of us, women and men alike, standing up and fighting for them. The fight has never stopped. The fight has to go on.
Yeah, probably you are right. No, I believe you are right. It depends on us. Never-ending fighting. Well, and we need to choose fight, not to sit and wait for manna.
As I always say, Fiona, of me personally, I don't wait for things to change. I make them change.
Yes, and we see that. Well, talking of personal preferences, what is attracting you exactly in the US American culture in general, and New York City culture in particular, if I may ask you?
Sure. So, and obviously, by the way, things are very much in turmoil right now. But, what I have always appreciated about American culture and the American way of life is the freedom to do whatever you want to do. And,
Right.
when you and I talked many years ago,
Right.
I made the point about the fact that I absolutely believe in the new American dream. The old American dream was very much focused on this culture of individualism
Right.
and about each person bettering themselves. And I believe the new American dream is about all of us coming together to lift each other up, to better all of us together. And even though things around us are in a very difficult place right now, I see that spirit every day breaking through. And so I continue to believe that we will be able to perpetuate that spirit of America, which is about, it lies at the heart of my own ventures. It's about co-action. It's about collaboration. It's about collectivism, because we know that when a rising tide floats all boats, that then makes
Yes.
life better for each of us off the top of that wave.
Yeah, thank you. It's important to hear, especially coming from a very few true cosmopolitans that you are. I believe you are a cosmopolitan. America needs more of those.
Thank you. And I will say, Fiona, also that, what I've just talked about is absolutely the spirit that I see here in New York right now. Because obviously New York has been devastated by the pandemic.
Right.
1 million people have lost their jobs in New York this year. The economy is terrible. But there is a real spirit of New York amongst all the New Yorkers here that says, we are going to rebuild this city together. And so New York is the hothouse, if you like, for this spirit of collaboration and collectivism and community that I think represents the best of America.
Yes, I believe that too. New York has a lot of future. I mean, past, present, and future, it's all there. Now that you are a celebrity in your own right, I believe, if you had an opportunity to have a lunch with anybody in the world, celebrity or rank and file, who would that be? I'm curious.
Oh, that's a very easy answer, Fiona. I am dying. I am desperate to have lunch with my mother.
Oh.
Because I have not seen my mother now for 8 months. My mother is, she is now 87. She is very frail. She lives in London. And before the pandemic struck, I went back to London once a month to see her for a few days. That's a lot of travel, but when somebody is 87, you just don't know how long they're going to be around. And so if I could have lunch with anybody right now, I would just love to have lunch with my mother.
Yeah, you know what? I thought that you would say that. I don't know. I had a premonition that you would say that. Thank you for saying that. Let's now go back in time, okay? I would like to say that I love many of your quotes, but this one is my favorite. Could you please read and elaborate on that? It's very deep. I believe, Cindy, it is a very, very deep quote.
So I've been saying this for years. I describe myself as a proudly visible member of the most invisible segment of our society, which is older women. Because, I want to help redefine, in the way that I live my life, what society thinks an older woman should look like, talk like, be like, dress like, live like, and date like. And that's because ageism, unfortunately, is rampant in every society around the world. I'm talking about, this applies globally. And ageism actually impacts women more than men. men in many cases are seen to get, more wise and respected as they get older. Women get more invisible. And that is tragic because as older women, we have so much wisdom and experience and expertise to offer. And also, when you are an older woman, you have lived through so much. So I was speaking on a panel yesterday with a number of other older women, which was talking about ageism in the workplace and in entrepreneurship. And I said to the audience, are you a woman? Are you over the age of 40? Congratulations, you have everything it takes to start your own business, because all those qualities are already there when you have already lived 40 or more years dealing with all the shit that we have to deal with as women every single day. And, I walk around the streets of New York. I walk around them a lot less now in the pandemic. I've been in lockdown in my apartment. But when I walk around the streets of New York, I look at every older woman I pass and I think, I wish I knew your story, because I just know your backstory is extraordinary. Older women are extraordinary. And that's why I wrote a piece for the Guardian newspaper in the UK some years ago titled "The Secret to Business Success is Older Women. Hire, promote, and value older women."
Yeah, well, did you see, by the way, Cindy, more ageism or age discrimination coming from women coming from men towards women, or from women as well?
Ageism is universal in our society because it's embedded in it. And bear in mind, Fiona, ageism operates at every single point of the age spectrum. You can be dismissed for being too young, especially if you're a woman, just as much as you can be dismissed for being too old, again, especially if you're a woman. And so I've spent many years championing and combating ageism, championing younger people, older people, and especially urging my own industry, advertising, to eradicate ageism in the ad industry, because when we change ageism in the ad industry, we change depictions of aging in advertising, which is a very powerful force in popular culture that shapes societal attitudes, beliefs, and behavior.
I see. I remember Madeleine Albright once said very wisely, women who do not help women have their special place in hell. What do you make of it?
Yep, no, I completely concur with Madeleine Albright saying there is a special place in hell reserved for women who do not help other women. The one thing I would say, Fiona, is that women behaving badly towards other women is predominantly driven by men. So, I hear from women in the workplace and business, who will say to me, "Oh, but Cindy, I've had these female bosses who are real bitches." And I explain that is a syndrome driven by men, and I call it Highlander syndrome. There can be only one. When women know that in a male-dominated working environment, there is only ever room for one token woman on the leadership team, on the board, on the project, that then forces them to compete with other women for that one place. So that is not the fault of women. That is driven by a patriarchal, male-dominated working environment and society. When we change that, when we basically achieve a gender equal world, that syndrome goes away completely.
Oh, I hope so. You are a feminist of record, a hands-on feminist. I also was writing in my book and blogs about different feminist flavors. Now, Cindy, if you were to choose a feminist flavor to reflect your personality, your brand of feminism, your flavor of feminism, would you choose one of these 7 or name your own, or both?
Quite frankly, I'd choose all of them. I am a rampant feminist. And that's what I say whenever I'm asked if I'm a feminist, because that's how much of a feminist I am. And by the way, for your audience, I believe the best definition of feminism is simply the belief that women are human beings, because that's how fundamental feminism is to society. And so, you know, I would say I'm all of those.
Right. Women rights are human rights, and vice versa. I quite agree with that. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for saying what you said, and looking at you and listening to you gives us lots of ideas of how to stay strong and sensational no matter what. And I would say this, yours is an amazing story of success in the US. An amazing story. Thank you for being here and for being who you are and what you are on behalf of my audience and myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fiona. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I would just like to say to your audience, if you appreciate what I've said, please support me by joining my community at makelovenotporn.com. We would love to have you sign up, subscribe, and join the social sex revolution.
Yes, thank you. I think many people will. Let us do some summary of today's conversation. I recommend these 4 takeaways of how to stay sensational at 60. 1, being sensational at 60 is possible, period. 2, Cindy Gallup is a free-thinking entrepreneur role model, and many people of the audience will sign up for your website, Make Love Not Porn. Number 3, think, dress, and act ageless. And number 4, order the book, How They Made It in America, to learn more about how to be a success in the US. Now, I recommend let's connect. We can connect certainly on YouTube, Bridge for Women Worldwide, and you can ask any questions on the discussion section. My email is fiona.sitkin@gmail.com, and we can connect via my book website, fionasitkin.com. That is fionasitkin.com, one word. Well, please subscribe to our channel, The Bridge for Women Worldwide, and I salute you.
Thank you.
Well, at this point, Cindy and myself, we both hope you stay well and healthy, not only throughout the pandemic, but forever and ever and ever. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.